those games don't go to penalties in the league. They're just a draw, and they basically need to win every game. So they'll miss out. If they do
Welcome to Edging a Win, and wow, we got a great show for everybody today. I know we have not been, it's been a couple weeks I think since we've been on the air, but just a reminder to everybody, since the English football seasons have started, we're giving away 62% winners. I did the math. I needed a calculator, but I did it. It's been a couple weeks, we've missed some fun storylines. The English women, wow, choke artists. Just call them the UK Cleveland Browns. We've missed Oxford United go on a tear in League One. The MLS is back. Messi is just collecting all the trophies. I'm sure his Leagues Cup trophies at the top of his mantle. He doesn't have any better trophy than that one. And today, college football is kicking off. Who knows? Maybe at the end I'll throw a bone and give you guys one of my best picks. So a huge show today. And before we get into that, joining us as always, a man that spent the last week on holiday in Wales. And I'm not sure though why you'd want to spend it inside of a whale. But either way, he has Moby Dicked his way back to us, and that is, of course, Mr. Ian Allen from ENO UFC. How are you, Ian? How's your holiday?
Very good, Matt. It was a sperm whale as well, just to throw some innuendo in there. But no, lovely, great weekend. A great week away, and I can tell Oxford are doing well because I got no messages from you giving me a hard time. He didn't even give me a hard time about England losing to Spain in the World Cup final. So it's been very quiet on my end, and I'm very much, for once, looking forward to a weekend of football, looking forward to Oxford playing, and I think this every week, but I do think this week we got some good bets.
I do too. One of the reasons I didn't contact you is I just thought you were going through enough agony, especially with some blood pudding probably being tasted every single day while you were there. I think that's Scotland, but nevertheless, they're all the same to us Americans. All right, good bets, Ian. We're hitting 62% since English football started. Let's see if we can't continue that and dive into your three best bets before we get to my best bet. And I know we have your parlay of the day as well. So starting in the Premier League, the top league today, what are you looking at?
I think we said the day I hit my parlay, we were going to quit the stream forever, didn't we? So let's see if we get it today. But bet number one is in the Premier League, and it is kicking off in just under an hour's time. So 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. It's Manchester United versus Nottingham Forest. And I'm going for both teams to score in this one. Good value on that. Much better than an over 2.5 goals or anything like that. But Man United are heavy favourites to win this game, but I don't think you should rule out Nottingham Forest in this one. I think they could quite easily get something from Old Trafford this afternoon. Man U have not been great so far this season. They got a very lucky 1-0 win against Wolves on the opening day, and then they had a very poor performance, especially in the second half, losing 2-0 to Spurs. But in both games, the Red Devils have looked pretty shaky at the back, and I think that's something that Forest can exploit. They got Teo Awioni, who's been started this season great, but he's really carried the form on from last season as well. I think it's 6 in 6 going from the back end of last season into this season as well. And I think that he's going to cause a threat. And I think Chris Wood will start up front as well. And he's going to cause that Man United backline problems with his strength and his aerial ability too. I do think Man United will win it. They'll find a way to edge out a 2-1 win. But as I said, the over 2.5 goals odds for this one were terrible. So I think both teams to score is a much better bet. And that is my bet number one.
Yeah, I do like it. Man United has not looked, honestly, good in either game. What is wrong with them? I mean, the list, we only have a 30-minute segment here, so keep it brief. But how worried right now should the United fans be at the moment?
Yeah, I think they should be very worried. They haven't looked a very good side at all. There's a lot of that just shows you that the problem that Erik ten Hag's got of turning Man United around into a title-winning team is a lot bigger than what he thought. I think they thought getting rid of Ronaldo would kind of ease everything, but it shows you that the rot is much bigger than that. They've had a lack of signings, which shows that the investment is not there from the Glazers off the field as well. But they're left with a very very weak and lazy midfield. In the opening 2 games, that midfield has been overrun, really. And you've only really got Casemiro in there as the holding player, but he's not looked great at the start of the season either. You've got Marcus Rashford playing up front in the middle, and it's a position he doesn't really like playing, and he's really lost his mojo, and he's not looking like he's playing with a bit of a poor attitude as well. I don't think Bruno Fernandes is a very good captain. I'd always call him like a little bit of a bitch, the way he just moans around the field the whole time, and I think that rubs off on the team as well. Still is a lot of dead wood to clear out of this Man United side for Erik ten Hag, but there are going to be question marks about his managerial position if the Red Devils don't start turning it around. But from what I've seen so far, I can't see Man United getting anywhere near challenging the top 4.
Yeah, I can't.
Challenging the title, sorry. Top 4, possibly.
I still don't think they're going to be the top 4. I'd say they'd be lucky at this point to, I know we're, 1 game in, 2 games in, to get to get maybe a Europa spot. But yeah, they have struggled. Definitely a team that I'm going to stay away from betting the money line with at this point. Just, give it a couple more weeks and see how they pan out.
Yeah, I mean, still got a transfer window open for a few more days. They'll be hoping they can at least get a striker in to try and score some goals, because they've really, since Marcus Rashford's gone off the boil, even at the back end of last season, they've really struggled to score goals.
For sure. All right, so Man United, Nottingham Forest, both teams to score. Bet number 1 from Ian. Bet number 2, I think we're going to pop our cherry here with Serie A, if I'm not mistaken, correct?
Yeah, first little dabble into Serie A this season for us, and we're looking at AC Milan versus Torino. That's going to be 2:45 Eastern Standard Time. We're looking for Milan to win this game on the money line, hoping for a little bit of a banker here if the first bet falls flat on its face. And I do think AC Milan are pretty good value to get their first win in their first home game of the season. They started the season quite well with a good 2-0 win away from home at Bologna. Kind of flattered them a little bit. It was a bit of a defensive job after they got 2 early goals, and goalkeeper Mike Magnan had a superb game and really kept that clean sheet intact for Milan. But USA fans, Matt, and I'm sure you will be delighted to see Christian Pulisic starting up front for AC Milan and scoring a goal as well. He already looks like he's forming a formidable partnership and a good partnership with Olivier Giroud up top. From my own point of view, I'm hoping England players, Ruben Loftus-Cheek, Giacomo Tomori, hopefully they're going to have good games as they try and force their way back into this England squad. Torino, they played out a 0-0 draw on the opening day of the season. They didn't look that great. It was a real boring game. Only just 2 shots on target from them. But they do look like they've got a pretty good back line, so that Milan might have to be patient and take their time in breaking this Torino side down. But as I said, they do look pretty toothless going forward, so I wouldn't be worried of Milan conceding too many goals in this one. And that is why my bet number 2 is AC Milan to beat Torino and so AC Milan on the money line.
Listen, I'm going to talk about Pulisic here, Ian, because personally, I thought it was a shame to see him leave Chelsea, being a Chelsea fan myself. However, I'm a little excited for the guy. I don't think Chelsea used him, the way that they should have. He didn't get as much playing time as I thought he should have. Do you see this as a positive move for him, or do you think it's going to be a step back, not being in the Premiership?
Yeah, I was disappointed to see him leave. I wanted to see if he could get some more game time under Pochettino, who's a much more positive manager than what they'd had previously at Chelsea. But I do think from what we've seen so far, it's looking like it's going to be a good move. The main thing Pulisic needs is game time and minutes and playing consistently week in, week out, which maybe you were never going to get that at Chelsea. They've got such a bigger squad that if you have 2 or 3 bad games, you're probably going to be at the back of the queue again and have to wait to get your way back in. Whereas AC Milan, you get the feeling he's going to play week on week. They haven't got such a strength in depth. And I think this is should be a good opportunity for Pulisic to get some consistency and be almost like a first choice forward for one of the best sides in the world, playing Champions League as well. And so far from what we've seen, it should be a good move.
Just real quick, and I know we didn't even discuss this off air, but my team in Serie A this year, I think Juventus bounces back here, has a big year. Is there a team that just, off the cuff you think is going to be the team to beat in this league?
Yeah, I personally, just going off obviously getting to Champions League final and everything, I think Inter Milan will be the strongest side. But I think Italy, out of all the sides in Europe, out of all the countries in Europe and all the leagues, I think the Italian league is going to be the one where you've got the most competition in terms of like who's going to win it. I think you've really got 4 or 5 sides there: Napoli, Lazio, Inter, Juventus, and AC Milan. Possibly even Roma on an outside chance as well, who all could get the title. So that means it should be the most interesting and open of the leagues this season.
Yeah, I do think it'll be a fun league to watch. The only reason I went for Juventus is I really do think they, on the road with a 3-0 victory over, how do you say it, Udinese? Udinese, yeah. I really just think that's something they couldn't do last year. I kept watching them struggle on the road, not being able to put goals in. So, I don't know. It'll be fun to watch. Looking forward to it. Love the bet, though, with Milan there on the money line. So that'll take us to your third best bet of the weekend. We're going to head back to the Premier League and with one of my favorite teams. What do you got here, Ian?
Yeah, I know you're saying that as a joke. Look, this one, it's fine that you asked that other question because this one's going to be really quick. But bet number 3, it is tomorrow, 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. It's Sheffield United versus Manchester City. And we're going for City on the spread. They're -2 on the spread. So we are going to need Man City to get a big win here. But I think that they are more than capable of doing that. And it could even be one of the most one-sided games that we see for a long time in the Premier League. We've seen Man City already hammer Burnley on the opening day, and now they're going to come up against another promoted side and probably a side that's not as good as Burnley, and that is Sheffield United. Although the Blaze have had 2 narrow defeats on the opening 2 games for them in the season, I think both games flattered them in many regards. I think that both Palace and Forest dominated Sheffield United and really should have won by more. There's just not a huge amount of quality in Paul Heckingbottom's side, and it's really going to be a struggle to see, even though they brought in Cameron Archer, who's a decent young forward. It's really hard to see how they're going to do anything against this Man City side, who are arguably the best side in the world. And rather than just talking about every single quality player that we know Man City have got, I just don't really have much more to say about this. I think Man City are going to go out and hammer this Sheffield United side. So I think that -2 on the spread is something Man City will easily be able to cover. And that is my bet number 3.
I have a thought on your bet, but I'm going to get to that in just a moment. First, I want to know your thoughts on something because I think we've talked about this for years now. Listen, the promotion for both Sheffield sides last season was great. Already looks like both of them are already coming back down. We'll actually, I think, dive into Sheffield and what their City thoughts are when we talk about my bet. But my question's about City. Their dominance has just been ridiculous, if you will. They're like the New England Patriots of the early 2000s and the New York Yankees of the early 2000s. Is there anybody that's going to dethrone Manchester City, or is it becoming a little bit too predictable here?
I know what you want me to say. You want me to come up with loads of different ways of how
Tottenham
teams are going to dethrone them, but it is looking eerily predictable again. They've started the season very well. I know that the fact that they haven't had Kevin De Bruyne has gone out and he's going to be out for a few months gives some sides hope. But they've got so many quality players to come in and replace him, like Jack Grealish, like Philip Foden. They've still got the likes of Bernardo Silva in there as well. Alvarez has started scoring goals as well as Haaland. It's just really hard to see anybody being as consistent as them over the course of the season, and that's the biggest thing. Arsenal look good. They look strong. But we saw last season that down the stretch, when it comes to the business end of the season, are they going to be mentally strong enough to be able to stay with City? Liverpool, I think there's still some question marks about this Liverpool defence from what I've seen in the opening 2 games. Man City look nowhere near. Chelsea, they don't look strong enough side. All the sides I've seen so far, Brighton arguably look the best side and look the most complete side of all the teams.
To be fair, they haven't played anybody.
Never play them.
They haven't played anybody.
They haven't played anybody.
They played Luton.
They played Luton. Yeah, I know. As I say, but they have started the season well. But again, it's a very, very, very optimistic to think that they'll be anywhere near winning the title come the end of the season. So I hate to say it, But even after 2 games, it's looking worrying that Man City could already dominate this Premier League.
It really is. Only from the standpoint of last year, there were times where they struggled. You know, there was a good month or so where you were like, can this team put it together?
Yeah, there is like that, but that's almost like what happens in a season, right? But Man City under Pep have been so accustomed, and they're so good at being at their best at the end of the season. Yeah. So they do go through these little times where they kind of like struggle to perform a little bit, and they maybe hit a bit of a sticky patch. But when you get to February, when you get to March, when you get to April, they're just a winning machine. And they just put so much pressure on all the other teams that it's very, very hard to see any of the other teams being able to do that.
Yeah, listen, here I'm going to close the conversation on Man City with this. I'm not hating your bet, -2. But every time that I back Man City with multiple goals on the spread, they absolutely go out and put up a dud. So I would not be surprised if Sheffield loses this one like 2-1.
Yeah, I mean, what I'm thinking has happened is I'm hoping Man City get a goal in the first half, and then they'll just kind of grind Sheffield United down, and then they'll just sort of pick them off when it comes to the end. But yeah, I've done that too, but I'm confident. I'm confident that they'll score a lot this time.
All right, I'm going to give you the benefit of the doubt. I'll back Man City with you, but that is your third best bet. And it's now time to get into my best bet of the weekend. And listen, I am looking in the Championship League. Cardiff and Sheffield Wednesday. And I am taking both teams to score in this one, Ian. I figured I'd talk about a team from your neck of the woods. I think your city might find themselves back down in a League One and maybe Championship with Sheffield United. So... but I want to talk about the Owls. They have lost every match this season, find themselves already right there in the bottom of the table. Cardiff as well finds himself with just 1 point on the season, so it's not like they're playing a Man City of the Championship League. But to be fair, they've played Leicester and Leeds on the road. The home loss to QPR is a bit concerning to me, though, as that is a bad squad, and I just don't know what happened there. Sheffield also has played some tough matches, and I think both teams who have struggled already on the season. I think they're going to actually appreciate playing a squad that they might think in their minds they have a chance to get a victory out of. One thing, though, that has been consistent with both of these teams, Ian, the inability to keep a clean sheet. Combined, they have allowed 13 goals on the season. Cardiff at home has given up a goal to their opposition in 8 of their last 10 matches. Sheffield on the road has given up a goal to their opposition in 7 of their last 10 matches. I think we see both defenses continue to have issues in the back here, but the offense eyes are wide open as they get to play what essentially is a lower squad in the league. So I honestly could not believe you can get both teams to score at -120, and considering that they hit this 75% of the time in their last 10 matches in the home-away splits, I'm going to just pull the trigger and take Cardiff and Sheffield Wednesday with both teams to score there. Ian, I know you live in Sheffield country, if you will. What are the thoughts on the Owls being at the bottom?
Yeah, it's not great. I mean, there's goes back to sort of constant things with Sheffield Wednesday about their owner, who's been in charge for a number of years now, and has really just done it. And I know what this is like from being an Oxford fan, where you have an owner who just tries to run things on the cheap. And that's exactly what he's done. I mean, fair enough, they did kind of spend a bit of money getting promoted last season back up to League One. But then you had Darren Moore jumped ship after they got promoted. And that was pretty obvious that he jumped ship because he was sick of working with Chansiri. And then you've got Chansiri. He brings in a good manager in Cisco Muniz. But they just have had they've bought in so few players, and the players they bought in have come in so late. It just feels like they're playing catch-up with the rest of the league. It's such a disjointed squad at the moment, and Muniz is desperately trying to find out a system and a pattern of play which is best going to suit them. And the style of football has not been good either from the Sheffield Wednesday side. They found the step up in quality to be quite hard to deal with, and they'll be looking at this one as one where they can get some points on the board. But Cardiff ultimately will be looking at this one as saying they need to win this game, playing against a side who's not won yet, and playing at home as well. So at the moment, things, I would say, even though both sides are struggling, things definitely still look a lot better in the red side of Sheffield than the blue side of Sheffield. And there's a lot of doom and gloom that they might make a quick return back to League One.
But the good news is they're not the owners of the Wigan Kebab, and I think that's a win in everybody's hearts.
True.
All right, so there's our 4 best bets, but we have Ian's parlay coming up in just a moment. Before we get to that, Ian, there's a lot of good matches going on around the league. What do you have your eyes peeled on?
Yeah, so let's start looking at the Premier League. You've got Arsenal starting off in just over half an hour's time. They're home to Fulham. See if they can carry on their good start. You've got Brighton, who also have had a good start. We talked about them earlier. They're home against West Ham United. They're top of the league. Can they keep it going? Probably not. And then tomorrow, the big game is just about lunchtime, your time, is Newcastle versus Liverpool. That should be interesting to see how they go. Newcastle lost 1-0 to City, but usually Newcastle play a lot more of an expansive game at home, so that one should be a pretty good one. Going into La Liga, last night Real Madrid made it 3 wins from 3 to start the season. Jude Bellingham scored 4 goals in 3 games, but we're looking at Villarreal against Barcelona, and Barcelona have not been great so far, so that'll be another tricky trip for them on the road. Serie A, let's look at the champions. They're at home to Sassuolo, so they'll be hoping to get a nice early victory on the board for Napoli. PSG playing Lens in the French league. That's probably going to be another home win for PSG with Mbappe back in the side. And let's have a little look at League One with my boys, Oxford United, home to Charlton Athletic in, as I said, just over half an hour's time.
All right, I love that. But there's a couple of other things I want to bring up for you, Mr. Ian. I know we kind of touched on this at the beginning, but Women's World Cup is the English. What do you call it? Is the mantra? Not the mantra. Is the feeling over there that you guys choked, or that Spain was just the better team?
A little bit 50-50. They didn't play well in the final and they didn't deserve to win. And a lot of that comes down to Spain just being a very, very good team. And they deserve, they arguably have been the best side in this tournament, and they were deserved winners. But there's been a little bit of people thinking that they choked, but I think they've clouded it behind this narrative of we've got to be proud of this women's side no matter what they do, because you're not allowed to be you're not allowed to give women's football or women's team any criticism whatsoever. So they've kind of hidden it behind their heroes and we need to be proud of them mantra. I think that they let themselves down a little bit in that final, and I think that all those players, apart from Mary Earps, who obviously played brilliantly and saved the penalty, will look back at that with a lot of regret. And but have you seen that thing about the more controversy in Spain with the president of Spanish football who kissed a Spanish women's player on the lips as they gave the trophy presentation, like as they were giving out the medals, kissed a player on the lips. They've had a massive back and forth about saying, was it a consensual kiss? No, it wasn't a consensual kiss. And they've suspended him now, even though he was adamant that he shouldn't be suspended and it's a witch hunt. But it's just like, they must be thinking like the Spanish Football Association, like, for fuck's sake, we had so much controversy coming into this tournament and now we've won it, and now you go and do that. It's like unbelievable that it's just kind of taken the gloss off what was a remarkable win for Spain.
Yeah, that is kind of a dark cloud over what should have been rainbows and sunshine.
Yeah.
But listen, I'm not going to hate on England. I can't say anything. The United States choked. They fired their head, or they didn't fire. He resigned. I mean, I love when I see something come out of, this coach has decided to step down. Did he? Did he? Was there no conversation behind closed doors? I mean, like, I just don't get it.
Yeah, I think quite rightly so. I think that they need to. Our World Cups usually do bring change.
Yeah.
And I think that it was clear that the women's team needs to change of direction after that poor showing in the World Cup.
No, I would agree. All right, enough World Cup. Women's World Cup, that's over. Men's World Cup, we're not seeing any of that till 2026, I believe. In the United States. So let's talk of something that is going on right now and is back. The MLS. They kicked off most teams last Sunday in their kind of, I guess, sprint to the finish here. I think they have 10 or 11 matches left for everybody now. But St. Louis City, our team, who at the beginning of the season, Ian, just as a recap, started off 5-0 as an expansion team. We waited for them to kind of falter. They had injuries. Klaus went down. The guy is still not back. And it looks like it's another couple weeks. I mean, they said that 6 months ago. I don't know. But St. Louis City, they've been in first place, and we keep waiting for them to lose it. But they won 6-3 on Sunday against Austin FC at home. A good win for them. Berkey looked good in goal. They're now 44 points in the Western Conference. That is 4 clear of Los Angeles or LAFC, and they now are spot on games. Nobody has any games in hand with them. So I mean, they're in position to control their own destiny, and they're looking good at the moment. Thoughts on St. Louis SC?
Fantastic. Great return. Great to see him back. I'm looking forward to seeing the game tonight against Orlando. I think that's just like well, by the time the game starts, it'll probably be well into the night, but I'm probably going to hopefully stay up for that one. The Klaus situation is concerning, but St. Louis have carried on without him really well to the point where they don't need to rush him back. You can make sure he's fit, make sure he's ready to go for when the playoffs roll around, because St. Louis are putting themselves in a position where they're almost certainly going to be finishing high up in the West, so they'll be a good seeded side for the playoffs. And I don't think you can underestimate what an amazing job that Bradley Carnell's done with this team. It's the first year they've played in the MLS, and they're top of the Western Conference.
Yeah, it's really been a next person up mentality, quite honestly, Ian. I mean, Parker, who was actually an MLS All-Star, he scored. Leuven? I don't know.
Leuven.
Yeah, he's back.
But it's a side that's we've seen that they've been pretty good at scoring goals from set pieces, pretty consistent at that. But they're starting to get goals from open play now. Adenoran looks a decent, still a lot of work to do with him, but looks a good player. You've got a Jose in there as well.
Giacchini.
He returned to form for him after not looking great before the All-Star break. But Parker, we said about Parker, but you're absolutely right. The side's definitely stepped up in the absence of Klaus, but they've got Leuven back, who is, again, one of their key players, and hopefully he stays fit for the remainder now.
Yeah, so that's, I think, an 8:30 match today against Orlando or somewhere around there. But real quick, before we get to your 9-1 parlay, so stay tuned for that. I do want to talk about Inter Miami and Messi real quick. They have won the Leagues Cup, which in my mind is like going to McDonald's and buying a Happy Meal and getting a toy. They are now in the finals of the U.S. Open Cup, which is a little bit more prominent. And now, and I didn't even know this, you let me know before we just got on air, they are third in odds to win the MLS Cup. And for the viewership, Inter Miami, do not go bet this. They are in last place with 18 points. They are 14 points away from a playoff spot now they do have some games in hand. So even if with those games in hand, I mean, maybe there's a chance they make the playoffs. They could, but here's my issue, and you tell me, Ian, if you think this is the same. They have just played an enormous amount of matches in a month. Like, more than any other team would ever play matches around the world. And now they have to continue to play in that U.S. Open Cup final in September, and they're going to have to make up some games that they missed, because of the Leagues Cup. They were supposed to play on Sunday. They got moved because that's when the final was. They have 3 extra games compared to everybody else. I mean, do you think Messi at his age is going to be just not fit enough to do it? Or do you think it's the other players that you're going to have to worry about?
there'll definitely be some tiredness in there. They haven't really, a lot of those players haven't had like huge breaks from coming off the European season, so there will be that element to it. But also remember as well, bookies respond to money coming in, and of course there's been money coming in. There's probably been some huge bets come in for Inter Miami because they've been a good price. People have seen them bringing in Messi and the other players like Busquets. To strengthen this Inter Miami side. So people probably have put huge amounts of sums on trying to do like a Leicester situation, but it's going to take something special for them to get into the playoffs. They need to win games. They can't just rely on draws. A lot of the times they've scraped through on penalties or in extra time, and they've ridden that crest of a wave in there. But in the MLS, those games are just going to be draws, and 1 point doesn't really help them. They need to get wins. So if they do make it through, then they remain a dangerous team when it comes to knockout football, absolutely. But they need to get there first, and I think it's a tall order to think that they'll make the playoffs.
Now, with that said, if they do make the playoffs, I mean, who knows? Yeah. I mean, who knows? Because look what they've done in the last. I mean, it's not like they're playing lower teams; they're playing the same teams.
When the playoffs roll, and I think I know the answer to this, but I'm not 100% sure. Do they keep it East and West separate?
Yeah.
So from a St. Louis point of view, at least we won't meet into Miami. Hopefully someone will knock them out before St. Louis have to worry about them.
And fun trivia fact for anybody out there, what was the last team Inter Miami lost to?
There you go.
St. Louis.
There you go.
It was St. Louis.
Wow.
Now, Messi
that seems a long time ago now, doesn't it?
It does. It seems like forever ago. I'll just land the airplane on this. I'm not a fan of that Leagues Cup. More so on, I just don't think it means anything to anybody. And number two, I don't like how it breaks up the season. And when you look at English football, they intertwine the season around the tournaments, and I think that makes it a little bit more, structured, which I enjoy.
Yeah, they've obviously tried to do something to try and get more games with interbreed it with the Mexican League and try to grow the two leagues up, the Mexican League and the MLS together. It's only the first season. Then maybe there's going to be some tweaks with it the next season it rolls around, but it very much felt like a bit of if we get through, then great. If we don't, who cares?
Yeah. All right, enough MLS. It is time everybody's been waiting for. It's Ian's £1 parlay. And as you mentioned, if we hit one of these, we are going to just quit the entire Edging to Win. We'll close it up. We'll wash our hands. So I expect that to be in 2027.
Yes, probably. But let's see. Let's see if I can hit it for once. I can't even remember who let me down last time out. I think I got a couple. I think a couple did. And
it's always the premier team, man. It's always the premier team.
Well, interesting you should say that. So we're starting with arguably the biggest banker in the Premier League, and that is Arsenal to beat Fulham. Please, can you beat Fulham?
So if you're out there, bet Fulham hard on the money line.
Yeah, exactly. So that's that one. And then into the Championship. We are going for matching your bet here, but we think Cardiff will beat Sheffield Wednesday. We got Cardiff to win in the Championship over Sheffield Wednesday. In League One, cover your ears, Matt, but I'm going for Bristol Rovers to beat Wickham.
That's not an awful bet. Wickham's been horrible. They've been very bad. They've actually, in my opinion, looked worse than Carlisle. So I'm not going to hate you on that bet.
And Bristol Rovers are a tricky side to play at home as well. And in League Two, Gillingham have started the season really well. And despite three of their players being involved in a small car crash yesterday, I still think that they are going to be good enough to beat a Colchester side. So I've got Arsenal, Cardiff, Bristol Rovers, and Gillingham. That should be just about plus 900. So fingers crossed. It's the parlay just for fun. Just put a little bit of beer money, pizza money on it. You never know, it might hit.
I love it. I love it. And when we're rich next week, we won't have to even do the live stream. 9-1 odds. I love it. Just a recap of all of our bets real quick before we sign off. We got Manchester United and Nottingham, both teams to score in that one. In Serie A, we have Milan on the money line over Torino. In back in the Premier League, we have Man City -2 over Sheffield United. And my best bet is going to be in that Cardiff-Sheffield Wednesday, both teams to score there. So that is our best bets here for edging a win on Saturday, August 26th. Yes, Ian.
One more. College football starts today, Matt. Who's going to be in the championship game? Give us 2 quick teams. Come on.
You talking about college football?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was getting to that. I wasn't going to sign off yet.
Oh, sorry. I thought we were going to forget it. Sorry.
No. So, listen, I did want to... First off, let's finish the soccer real quick. I was going to ask, what's a score prediction for Oxford today?
Yeah, so the Oxford are playing Charlton. I do actually think Charlton are going to do well this season. I've got them tipped to get promoted, but I think Oxford are playing them at a good time and with the momentum of a good week. First time we've won 3 games in a row for 18 months. I'm going for a 3-1 Oxford win.
All right, I like it. I got Wickham losing. I got Carlisle losing. None of my teams in League One are doing well this season. But I did want to talk about college football because the Notre Dame Fighting Irish kick off from your kind of area in Dublin, Ireland. They're in Ireland. They're in their motherland, and it's going to be a good season for the Irish. I can already tell. But I do have my video came out. I have 3 bets in college football today. I'm just going to give them out. I have San Diego State to cover the spread, which is I think is at 3 over Ohio. I have Louisiana Tech and FIU, the Panthers, the Florida International Panthers. I have that over 58.5 points. And I'm going to be extremely biased at 2:30 p.m. Eastern on NBC right after the Premier League game, the West Ham game. Is it West Ham? I think it is. They are going to be playing the midshipmen of Navy who run a triple option. So if you like rugby, that's essentially what Navy runs. That's all they do. They will not throw the football. In fact, their leading passer last year only had 250 yards over the entire season. I'm sorry, leading receiver. But
so the game will be over in about an hour.
Well, that's a great segue because I am going to take them minus 20.5 points over Navy, but it's extremely biased, so I actually don't recommend following me on that because all my teams always let me down. But a good question, what 2 teams do I think are going to be in the national championship? And I won't be biased here. I actually think I'm going to go out on a limb, and I'm going to take Washington Huskies. That is a team that has been like Tottenham in the Premier League, who has honestly been just a very good football team who can't put it together. And I think the Washington Huskies do put it together, and I think they're going to get into the playoff, and I think they're going to find themselves in the final. I can't pick Ohio State because I hate them. I can't pick Michigan since I hate them. So guess what? I am going to be biased. I'm taking Notre Dame against Washington in the championship.
There we go. So I think it's going to be a real shock. I'm going for the Citadel versus Gardner Webb.
Versus who?
Gardner Webb.
Gardner Webb. Oh, that's a hard team. Are you sure those? You're not. I think those teams are better. And actually, if you had picked those teams in college basketball, nobody actually would probably laugh at that. That actually could happen eventually.
Is one of those? I don't know a lot about. Is one of those teams the Crimson Tide?
Oh no, but I love how you're bringing the Crimson Tide into it. Alabama sucks. Come on.
I don't know who they are. I thought that was an advert for kind of like women's feminine hygiene product.
The Browns also play today, Ian, just for your knowledge. It actually starts at 1 p.m., their final preseason game. Big news. We got rid of Josh Dobbs, our backup quarterback, and went with our rookie, DTR, as our backup quarterback. So some good stuff there. Oh, hey, real quick, JD in the chat. What do we think of the Everton game? What do we think of the Everton?
Oh, crikey, Everton. What a team in a mess.
Have they even scored a goal yet?
No, they look really poor so far this season, Everton. They were really embarrassed last season by Brighton. Everton Wolves, I'd be really reluctant to back Everton at all. I wouldn't be shocked if that's a draw, like 1-1, something like that, maybe even 0-0.
Actually, the Wolves, I thought, even though they got embarrassed last weekend, in this late second half actually showed signs of life, looked pretty decent. with some of their play. So I actually could see them nick a goal. I wouldn't be surprised, though, if it's like maybe a 2-2 match. I think Everton's due to get some offense. They're due, man.
I mean, Wolves don't look good at the back, so you'd think Everton should score against this team. But I just feel that Everton just seem a bit of a mess at the moment.
2-2 final. Book it.
There we go.
All right. Thanks, JD, for commenting. I hope that gives you some guidance. Don't listen to us. We don't know what we're talking about.
No, we don't know what we're talking about.
All right. Hey, so that'll do it for Edging a Win. We are going to be off next weekend because I have to go to a wedding in BFE. And I don't know who decides to put a wedding in the middle of college football week number 1, but that's what my family decided to do. Yeah, I just have no idea why they decided to do that. But, all right, Ian, it's been a pleasure. We'll be back on the 9th of September together. And for all of you out there, hey, make sure you go out, edge a win, make some money. See you next time.